in the longer term here, this isn't such a fun topic, but we'll get to it. The reason that we're dwelling on a championship theme, Simon, is that Middlesbrough played yesterday and lost to Huddersfield. Huddersfield look as if they're making a charge just at the right time, so that's another matter. But Middlesbrough boss Chris Wilder, last week he batted it back when he was asked, and he was asked about the Burnley job. Is he interested in the Burnley job? And Chris Wilder, whether it's appropriate or not, he was asked. You are in the running, it would seem, as far as the bookmakers are concerned, to take over from Sean Dyche at Burnley. Now, he didn't fancy talking about it then, and yesterday, after the defeat to Huddersfield, there was really no change. This was Wilder, again, when it was put to him about the possibility of him taking over at Burnley.
I'm an emotional guy, like we've just got to be, from a footballing point of view. You know, I've just got to be as manager of Middlesbrough. You know, I can't stop any of that stuff, but I'm not so sure it's the right time to ask anything like that after, you know, a really disappointing defeat from our point of view. I think it's really unfair on anybody. Nobody. I'm manager of Middlesbrough. Nobody knows what's around the corner for anything, does it? Do they? So, you know, I don't know what you want me to say or what you want me to do. You know, so, you know, you're after me, you know, dropping my guard and saying something daft. I'm Middlesbrough manager. I'm enjoying working at Middlesbrough. We've just been defeated. So, you know, what do you want me to come out with a boring one? I'm flattered by the Blues there, yeah, because we're winning games of football. We haven't won a game today, so that's just basically where it's at.
You see, I mean, I think, and I know you think differently, I think that's pretty much fair. I mean, at the end of last week, he didn't really change his tune on this, because he said, you know, I've looked at it, Sean's a pal of mine. I think he'll understand in terms of how the industry is, and there's obviously been a decision made at Burnley. He says, I'm not going to come out with anything in terms of this. My head is down, and I'm thinking it's on to the next game. Well, the next game was Huddersfield and they lost it. But he's still batting it back. Well,
batting it back. Look, I mean, I don't know what his contract is at Middlesbrough, so it's unfair for me to be overly harsh on it. But I do get a bit tired of these managers that have been given an opportunity with the club. Steve Gibson's a decent gem. I'm assuming he's put him on a contract of some significance, of some length. So it's really, really simple, Chris. The answer is, I'm the Middlesbrough manager. I'm not interested in Burnley. That's the end of the discussion. That's the end of the conversation.
Was he not saying that?
No, he wasn't. He was saying, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm currently the Middlesbrough manager. I've seen all this before. I saw Steve Bruce do it to me. It's the classic case of positioning themselves, making sure that they're all right, Jack. Now, the argument will be, yeah, well, that's what chairmen do too. But when chairmen fire you, they have to pay you. When you leave and walk off, what you tend to do is walk off, do precisely what you want, come back to your backroom staff and loot the club that gave you the opportunity in the first place for everything you like there. That's how it tends to work in football.
I'm not an admirer. Back a bit of memory for you.
I'm not an admirer of Chris Wilder's.
Why?
I was an admirer of his when he took them through the divisions, put them into the Premiership, and managed well. And I loved his attitude and disposition.
He's done a good job,
And then I watched him when times got tough. I watched him when, of course, he started to read his own press about what he'd done for Sheffield United the previous year and what kind of manager he was. And I watched him suddenly start to disappear up his own backside and start to be bitchy and unpleasant towards his owner, who may not be the perfect owner, but from what we remember was he'd flown over from the Middle East to give his manager encouragement against a backdrop of people suggesting that Chris Wilder should be sacked. And Chris Wilder's response to that was to spit at him, metaphorically speaking, and to be incredibly disrespectful to, in the end, he had to throw him out of the club.
Is that true? Is that altogether true?
Well, I watched it. I mean,
the owner of Sheffield United took it upon himself to fly over. He told us that. I remember it.
I remember him talking about the idea.
But it was his idea to come over and see Wilder.
It was building up a momentum.
Wilder didn't ask him to come over.
Of course not. Well, it's not Wilder's gift to ask his owner to do anything, is it?
No, but he'd given a lot to the football club.
But what we're saying is that when it became an opportunity to be reflective and respective of the environment, what we heard Chris Wilder do was moan and groan and whine and become more and more difficult to deal with, more and more truculent and more disrespectful to his owner. Till in the end, it became, his position became untenable. Now, with that in mind, it's really tarnished my view of him, because I thought he was something different. I thought he was something different from classic English managers that look after themselves, bat their eyes at everyone else, and when it doesn't go their way, every reason for their success is down to them. Every reason for their failures is down to everybody else. So I sat there and I watched that. I thought, I'm not sure about you. And when you rock up in the director's box at Burnley invited by the directors, and you don't tell the manager of Burnley that you're going there, I think there's an element of etiquette between managers that might not be him and Sean being the greatest of mates. I'm not sure.
Wait a minute, when was this?
Well, I understand that he's been to Burnley recently, sat in the director's box and watched the game, and I'm not entirely sure Sean Dyche was told about that. And I'm not sure there's, whether these guys hang around like vultures like Harry Redknapp used to do, waiting for someone to lose their job so they can jump in their seats like some demented cuckoo. That's a different dynamic. But he has a really simple focus. I have been given a job at Middlesbrough. My job is to honour my contract, and that's what I'm going to do.
But now, did he not say that? I mean, in essence, that's what he said.
He didn't say that. You're playing devil's advocate on the other side of this conversation.
No, I'm not. No,
because he didn't say that. And if he had have said that, I'd be saying that's what he said. He clearly sat there, doesn't want to answer a question, doesn't feel it's fair to be asked a question, and maybe it isn't fair to be asked a question after a game you've just lost the result.
Let the listeners make up their mind. Was this not Sean Wilder as recently as yesterday? Sean Wilder. Was this not Chris Wilder as recently as yesterday batting it back when he was asked about being one of the favourites for the Burnley job?
I'm an emotional guy. Like, we've just got to be from a footballing point of view. I've just got to be as manager of Middlesbrough. I can't stop any of that stuff, but I'm not so sure it's the right time to ask anything like that after a really disappointing defeat from my point of view. I think it's really unfair on anybody. Nobody. I'm manager of Middlesbrough. Nobody knows what's round the corner for anything, does it? Do they? So I don't know what you want me to say or what you want me to do. So you're after me, dropping my guard and saying something daft. I'm Middlesbrough manager. I'm enjoying working at Middlesbrough. We've just been defeated. So what do you want me to come out with a boring one? I'm flattered by the Blues because we're winning games of football. We haven't won a game today, so that's just basically where it's at.
No,
he said a Middlesbrough manager.
I want you to come out and say that I've signed a contract with Middlesbrough. I have no interest in Burnley. It's not difficult. The reasons why you don't want to say that is because you don't want to say it. We all know that we never know what's around the corner. We all know that a chairman is perfectly capable of firing you, and so that gives you the situation where it can justify managers saying, well, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander, or whatever the expression is. The bottom line is that I would imagine, is distinctly likely to go to Burnley. He doesn't want to answer the question. It's not difficult. Ask me a question. Am I going to go and buy Derby County Football Club? No, I'm not. Ask me a question. Would I want to go and be back involved in football and be interested in owning Millwall? No, I wouldn't. They're not difficult questions to answer.
But when you think of it, why would he want to go to Burnley? Because they look as if they're heading down, and Borough could well go up.
Because Burnley have got parachute payments. Burnley, despite the fact I think they're going to be in financial mess for the model that they were bought under, which was a scandalous way to buy a football club of that size and scale, because it's okay for Man United, but it's certainly okay for Burnley. But they've got away with that. And I think the bottom line is there's probably more opportunities in his mind with Burnley and a parachute payment that gives them 70 million quid more than anyone else in the division, besides other teams that have been relegated, and perhaps a better opportunity. You know how it works. Better opportunity. Me, myself and I. It's about me. What's the opportunity for me? What can I get next for me? How did that work out for Gary Rowett when he bounced around clubs? How did it work out for Marco Silva when he bounced around clubs? It takes them a long time to recover from those situations, and maybe they do recover from it.
Well, with someone like you in their backs, yes, it does take a long time to recover.
Because I think it's right, Jim. I think, there's something in this world called integrity, and the tragedy for football is if you're the only person in the room with integrity, you're on your bleeding own.
But are they not all out for themselves?
Well, be out for yourself.
You were as well as an owner.
Be out for
you sacked 10 managers.
Tragically, I wasn't out for myself, because every time I sacked a manager, I had to bloody well pay for them to go and pay for their failings. And it was, of course, my responsibility and my choice that they got put in the first place, and my choice to take them out. I never complained about it.
Well, exactly.
But the fact of the matter is, I gave these people enough rope so they could run with or hang themselves with, depending what they wanted to do. More often than not, it was the latter rather than the former. But the difference is that he's only been in the job for 5 minutes. He's probably hanging over the back of Neil Warnock's job, waiting for that opportunity to land. Got the job with Gibson, who's a decent chairman. Probably has a contract, and I know that I'm speaking quite stridently. But if you want to go to, but if you don't want to go to Burnley, riddle me this, riddle me that. Just say you don't want to go to Burnley. The reason why you don't want to say it is because you don't want to say it. What do you want me to say? Really simple. I'd have guided him through it. I'm not going to Burnley.
I'm looking at some of them. Adam here, I'm amazed to hear the level of disrespect from Simon towards Chris Wilder. Wilder helped save Northampton Town Football Club.
Well, stick around. You can hear some more if you want.
Batted the reports back. He's an emotional manager. He wears his heart in his sleeve. Stop trying to dig him out for everything, Simon.
I'm not digging him out. If you listen to the dialogue, I really admired him through the journey. I really admired his achievements, taking him out of League One and putting him in the Championship, straight out of the Championship into the Premier League. Really admired the way he approached the Premier League. Loved the way he dealt with the situation about playing teams like Chelsea, saying, we're not grateful to be playing Chelsea, we're here on merit. Disliked intensely the moment he had a challenge in the Premier League, started reading his own press and turned into a manager that suddenly thought it was everybody else's fault besides himself.
Right. It seems crazy to ask it, but I'll ask it. Would he be a good fit for Burnley?
He's a decent football manager. He's a decent football manager. If you want somebody that looks after themselves first, and if you want somebody that goes into Middlesbrough and will jump out of Middlesbrough and jump into your job, that's up to you. Probably Burnley's ownership model deserves precisely that.
Are we not talking about virtually the vast percentage of managers when you talk like that?
Depends.
Are they not all out for themselves at the end of the day?
Yes,
if they're being honest.
There's nothing wrong with being out for yourself. There's everything wrong with being out for yourself as the only motivation that you have. And there's a balance between looking after yourself and having some integrity. And I just find that balance needs to be struck better at certain times. It's not a one-way transaction. Chairman can be difficult too. We've seen it. We've seen the way that chairmen behave. But most of the time, when a chairman makes a decision, he don't get away with it for free. He has to then fire somebody, pay them, probably pay someone else compensation to come and join him. So whenever he makes a stupid mistake or looks like he's looking after himself, it comes out of his back pocket. Whenever a manager makes a mistake, it's everybody else's fault. Or when he wants to leave, he leaves you where you are.
I'm looking at the responses.
People can say I'm being bitter. It's not being bitter. It's just an acerbic view of a very cynical world that football can be. And people, unfortunately for people that sit there with sentiment, fact trumps sentiment. I may sound bitter because I've seen it, watched it, and know what it looks like.
Mind you, you are always very pro-owner and anti-player and anti-manager.
No, I'm anti-people that don't do what they should be doing. I'm anti-people that nick a living out of football that don't do what they should be doing. I'm anti-people that get away with getting top money for delivering low-rate fare. And that's what I want people to be worth. If someone gets paid
but
off,
you can't accuse Chris Wilder of that.
Well, I can accuse him of this.
Nick a living.
I can accuse him of in this instance. No, not of that particular situation for Chris Wilder. I'm talking about en masse. You brought players into the equation. So back to Chris Wilder. I think Chris Wilder is at Middlesbrough. I think he's lucky to have got the Middlesbrough job. I think he should be banking on doing something for Middlesbrough rather than playing hide and seek with himself over someone saying to me, "You're going to Burnley." We all know he's going to Burnley.
But he did say yesterday, "I am Middlesbrough manager."
Well, he's Middlesbrough manager, and he is Middlesbrough manager because at this moment in time, nobody's fired him or nobody's taken him somewhere else. But he'll be Burnley manager.
A lot of people are torn on this, I have to say. Dan, a Manchester City fan, I'm listening to Simon, he's spot on. There's another, Daniel Saunders. I'm going to make this very simple. Simon is spot on. Not everybody's agreeing with you, Simon, on this, and you wouldn't be surprised to hear that. There's one no name in it. Simon Jordan sounding very bitter this morning. I think you're still suffering from the
tragically,
I'm that kebab.
Probably. That doesn't make me bitter. It rhymes with bitter, but it's something else.
Okay, Paul from Islington. Is Paul right? Simon's bang on about Wilder. Be straight, respect the club that you're contracted to, and straight talking never does anyone any harm. Where do you stand on this? Wilder for Burnley? Is it serious? Could it happen? And if it does happen, Burnley fans, are you up for it? Middlesbrough fans, what do you think about the way that Chris Wilder has been handling this? You can shoot us a message, 81089.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.